Good morning, fourth graders. Today in math, we're still working with fractions, but we're adding a new twist. We're putting fractions on a number line. There's a really helpful trick that you can use when figuring out where to mark a fraction on a number line, and I'm going to show you what that is right now. Let's take a look at the first question. It asks you to mark the number line into fourths and place a square above 3/4. This is the trick that I do when I'm marking up a number line. I imagine, I'm going to use a really light color right now. I imagine that instead of my number line being a line, I imagine that it is a rectangle. And then when I'm breaking up my rectangle, I break it up and I have the markers, the tick marks go down a little bit farther. So just like I would break a rectangle into fourths to shade in 3/4, I'm going to break the rectangle that I've drawn into 3/4. And now you can see that this would be 1/4 would go all the way up to here. So this would be 1/4. 2/4 would go to the middle. 3/4 would go to the last tick mark that I drew, and 4/4 would be the same as one whole. So instead of shading in the sections of the rectangle like we have been practicing, what we're doing now is we are using a shape on top of our number line to represent where 3/4 would fall. So like I had said, 3/4 is going to be above this little tick mark. I'm going to make my tick marks a little bit darker so that you can see them. So 3/4 would be right where I have drawn it on my number line. If you want to go one step farther, you can label each little tick mark that you put on your number line. So the first tick mark that I drew was 1/4. And then I drew 2/4, and then 3/4. All right, now I'm going to get started on question number 2. Again, I'm going to use my same strategy of pretending like my number line is a rectangle for a fraction bar. On this question, it asked me to break it into eighths and put a square above 5/8. So I'm going to use a bolder color. So when I'm breaking it into eighths, I'm going to start by putting a line at the half, and then I'm going to break each half into fourths, and then each fourth into eighths. So now when I go to put my square above 5/8, I can see this would be 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. So 5/8 would be right where I drew that little marker. So 5/8 would be right here. All right, so I have labeled each of the little tick marks that I drew on my number line. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. And notice the 0 and the 1 are already labeled for me. If I had labeled either of those, it would have been 0/8 and 8/8. Go ahead, pause the video now, and then come on back and we'll check our answers together. All right, number 3, mark the number line into halves and place a square above 1/2. This one is pretty easy. I don't think I need to make a rectangle. I know that 1/2 is right in the middle of 0 and 1. Number 4, mark the number line into sixths and place a square above 5/6. If you're using the rectangle strategy, that totally works. I've got it broken in half. Each half I'm going to break into thirds so that I have a total of 6 equal pieces. And I'm going to put my square above 5/6, which is really close to 6/6. Question number 5, mark the number line into tenths and place a square above 5/10. So I've drawn my really light rectangle. Again, I'm drawing it really light so that you can't really tell that I'm picturing my shaded in rectangle. I'm going to break it in half, and then I'm going to break each half into fifths. So there's a total of 10 equal pieces. And I'm going to put my square above 5/10, which is right in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're still confused, remember, you can just imagine as if you shaded in 5 parts of that rectangle. Number 6, mark the number line into thirds and place a square above 1/3. 1/3 would be right here. Number 7, mark the number line into fourths and place a square above 3/4. There are my 4 equal parts, and 3/4 is right there. Number 8, mark the number line into sevenths and place a square above 1/7. So this one I am going to use my rectangle strategy. Sevenths is a little trickier because I can't just put a marker right in the middle and then break each half up evenly. So I sort of need to eyeball roughly what 1/7 would look like. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 equal pieces. And above 1/7, I'm going to put my square. Question 9, mark the number line into fifths and place a square above 4/5. So I'm going to draw my little light rectangle. I'm going to break my rectangle into 5 equal pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put a square above 4/5. Number 10, mark the number line into eighths and place a square above 1/8. One-eighth would be the very first little tick mark that I drew. Mark the number line into fourths and place a square above 2/4. 2/4 I know is the same as 1/2, so that square is going to be right in the middle. And the last question, number 12, mark the number line into sixths and place a square above 2/6. So I'm going to break it in half, and then I'm going to break each half into 3 equal pieces, so there's 6 parts in all, and 2/6 is the second tick mark that I drew. As always, reach out if you have any questions, and I'll see you tomorrow.